Hello everybody. This is going to be a slightly longer video because I've got a few more things to go through. Um, so I'll start off with Richard D. Hall's update from, I don't know, this was about just over a week ago, I think, maybe 2 weeks ago. And he's now produced this new video about Martin and Eve Hibbert, which you can watch. And so he's still active, he's still doing stuff, he's still working on the case. And this video basically brings forward some more evidence about these two, which essentially I think weakens their case that they were actually there at the Manchester event. And you can see all the evidence that Richard's compiled in the video, some of which he has mentioned before, but there's a few bits and pieces that he's put together here, which is worth considering, very much so indeed. And I think it has ruffled a few feathers. So so he's still going to be working on the case. He did contact me again today with some other stuff that he's been working on briefly, but I'm sure he'll reveal that in good time, just as the case is with this. I mean, it's been a few months since the last update, but here it is. So anyway, so you can watch that, and obviously we all wish him well. I'm going to be talking in Norwich this weekend. You can find the details at checktheevidence.com, and I don't think it'll be a very large group there, but we are going to talk about, just mention Richard at that event. So anyway, you can look on the website for details. So moving on then, the second topic that I listed on the caption there was a bit of follow-up from the last video that I made about what happened to flight MH370. Now, this has caused quite a lot of discussion, as you can imagine, because the Ashton Forbes research that he's posted is very interesting, and he claims to show these two videos, one from a drone, one from space, which seems to show this plane literally disappearing into thin air, something like a teleportation or wormhole. Pretty incredible stuff, as we said last time. The videos do seem to be match, and they're legitimate, but then again, there's certain questions have been asked. Now, Matthew, who runs the Math Easy Solutions and has been a big supporter of myself and Dr. Judy Wood, he's posted a lot of videos about that research. He seems to think this is another muddle up regarding what happened to MH370. So essentially what we're saying is maybe there's some truth in these videos, maybe they are indeed real, but there are certain elements which are misleading, or the conclusion that you draw is perhaps not the correct one in this teleportation idea. Maybe it's something else that's going on. Now, the reason for suggesting this is that Matthew discovered that Ashton Forbes created his Twitter account in January 2014, and there's no archive post before 2023. And so there's a close correspondence between the time this happened and the time that he came on Twitter. Could be a coincidence. And the videos from the teleportation were loaded on May the 19th, 2014 and June the 12th. But there's then this other date, March, that comes up. And the first post on Twitter is about this is on August 13th, 2023. But in a span of just 3 months, Ashton Forbes has posted 13.4 thousand times on Twitter, or X as it's now called. So, a few question marks here, and Matthew then added that this YouTube channel was created where the original videos were uploaded 4 days before uploading the alleged teleportation videos, and his Twitter account was created 3 days afterwards while specifically mentioning MH370. So, there's a few sort of timing things here to think about, and what sort of narrative this is. It's a very interesting account, and we still don't know what happened. It did disappear, this flight. There's no I don't think there's much debate about that. But anyway, Matthew's raised legitimate questions there, that this could be another sort of misdirection, and the story that's been put out is not the truthful one. And I think it was either Matthew or 9/11 Revisited. They tried to get Ashton Forbes to talk about 9/11, and they were blocked. I think Matthew said that in another message. I haven't got that on here, I don't think. So there is that issue as well. And then in relation to that, an interesting comment on my channel from Parja Nightbear. They said here, you can superimpose three-dimensional space on a smartphone, implying that these videos could have been faked on a smartphone. I'm not buying aliens until I've met one. Fair enough. That wasn't even mentioned in the video. I think it's all been an elaborate hoax to cover up Tesla aircraft that no one else is allowed to play with. All the alien salesmen are assets. Think of the movies about aliens and the budgets and the funders. The universe is infinite. There will be infinite other planets and species, but I find it too convenient that a few years after Tesla's lab is raided, there's flying saucers. Yeah, well, I go into some of that in my book, The Finding the Secret Space Program. I don't think it's as simple as that, but I think, again, it's a valid point that maybe this is a misdirection about the certain technology which exists. Maybe it's not that technology. Maybe it's another technology which is similar. So we're getting 90% of the truth, maybe, or 70% of the truth, and the rest is disinformation as regards MH370. So, obviously my interest in this stems from the advanced technology that was used on 9/11, which has been kept secret, and the huge cover-up that's been involved with that. Compared to the MH370 case, there's tons and tons more evidence in relation to 9/11 than just like these two video clips of this flight disappearing. So that brings us back to 9/11, and I was advised that Dr. Judy Wood had done a new interview in November this year. I've not listened to this. From the description here, which is nicely laid out, I think she hasn't really covered anything new in the main part of it. I think there's maybe some new bits at the end. This is a 2-hour interview, so you can go and listen to that if you wish. All these links will be in the video description, so do have a look at that if you wish to. And Dr. Judy was messaged me a few times in the last few weeks, so she's okay. She's out and about and things, going to the shops and whatnot, so she's okay. And that then brings us back to UK Column and their posting or reposting of this first annual David Ray Griffin lecture, The Ruthless Empire Post 9/11. Now, I didn't watch this. It's 2 hours 29 minutes. Watch it if you want. I skimmed through it to see what was there, and I was intrigued to see this fellow, Richard Falk. Now, Richard Falk, he wrote the foreword to the David Ray Griffin's first 9/11 book, 9/11 New Pearl Harbor. And of course, David Ray Griffin set up the 9/11 Scholars Group, and Dr. Judy Wood has mentioned in a couple of interviews that he set that up after he'd met Dr. Judy Wood. And I don't think David Ray Griffin has mentioned Dr. Judy Wood's research in any of his books. This lecture doesn't mention any of the research. UK Column rarely talk about it. I think Alex Thompson has appeared on them there and talked about it, and Mark Anderson has. But the other guys, Mike Robinson, I think is his name, and Brian Gerrish, they never talk about it in any meaningful way. So again, UK Column, they're gatekeeping again, sadly. And many people in their audience know of my research, Dr. Judy Wood's research, etc. So they've never invited me on for interview. They've never, to my knowledge, invited Dr. Judy Wood. They weren't contacted about this. They did the same thing last year with Patrick Henningsen being involved. They're gatekeepers for 9/11. They're part of the cover-up. So sorry, folks. There you are. So moving on then, back to COVID. Now there's been a few sort of things happening recently. There's been this big COVID inquiry in the UK, and this chap Andrew Bridgen, he is the MP for North West Leicestershire, which isn't very far from where I live, and he's been quite vocal in some of his statements. He's tried to get people together. I think he's trying to do the right thing. Of course, he's a bit hampered because he is part of the system still. He is still an MP, but he's been stonewalled and ignored. And like when he managed to get a debate going in the Parliament, but like 5 people were there or something, and it took him 3 attempts to get this organised. But this is a pretty good speech he's done here. It's only 5 minutes long. It's quite moving, actually. He hasn't got the full picture. There's a little bit of disinformation in it, but all credit to the guy. He's trying. He's doing his best, and I appreciate him for that. So you can have a watch of that and share that if you like. Um, and then in relation to that, the whole COVID thing, as you may have heard, Dr. Reiner Fuellmich, he was arrested when he was trying to collect passports in Mexico and charged with, I don't know, some financial crimes. Um, and this is pretty much, a setup. He was set up, I think, and he's now in prison in Germany. That he was deported back to Germany, and the German government paid for flights for 2 Mexican security officials to escort him back. And he's been in prison there for a number of weeks now. I think 6 weeks. I think yes, it's 6 or 7 weeks by now. Now Elsa Scheider, who ran the Truth Summit that I was part of, she's been posting updates. She's trying to help Reiner, and various people have written to the embassies, German embassies around the world, to ask for Reiner's prompt release, because he's been detained essentially without a trial or anything. He's been charged, and it's just it's not right. I mean, he's a political prisoner, but one that will be ignored by the mainstream media because, of course, he's a conspiracy theorist and a conspiracy lawyer or something he's been called. So again, you might want to try and support him. I've just done a very short video in support of him, but I don't know what to do because, again, cases like this, they're just stonewalled. The system is controlled by the criminals that have perpetrated the COVID crimes. So we're always on the back foot with situations like this. And, the mainstream media are just mainstream media, as you know, and they're not going to cover this. So in relation to the COVID stuff, again, yeah, I've got a link here. There we go. And this, again, is back to Andrew Bridgen. He tried to organise this parliamentary debate on the 4th of December. Well, he did organise it, but it turns out that Mike Yeden was made this video, but he was censored. He didn't get to speak. But other people, such as Robert Malone and David Martin, who are somewhat suspicious characters, and seem to have links to the various industries and so forth. Certainly, Robert Malone does, and David Martin is a peculiar character. But Yeden was blocked from speaking. So again, you can watch the video on that page and read the article, or there it is on Rumble. Mike Yeden, I think he's just extremely fed up with it all. He sounds fed up in this video. It's only like 9 minutes. I think he could have presented more evidence. It's a bit, it's a bit. I think I do have a lot of respect for the guy. I mean, he's sacrificed a lot, and he's a very good speaker. But I think he's just fed up with it all now. And I think he, like I do, realizes that the system is going to trample on people like him and keep this covered up. They're not going to admit to their crimes. Clearly, they're not. They never admitted to them in 9/11. On 9/11 and stuff. We've been at that for 20 years. It's pretty much going to be the same story with COVID, if you ask me. But there we are. Credit to those people for trying. And then similarly, we've got talk, I think, in the U.S. Senate or the U.S. Congress about military-grade censorship being used on the American public involving British intelligence. This is quite an interesting video, but it's not surprising to me at all. They admitted early on in COVID with this, what do we call it, this committee that they formed, SAGE and all of that, and this other group, I can't remember the name of it, but it's in the original COVID report. They were, using psychological warfare tactics. They admitted that openly, really, in their documents. So this is no surprise, this video, to me, really. It's just more of the same. So that's all sort of linked to the COVID and stuff. So again, moving on to something else now. This came onto my screen via Facebook. It's not very long, this clip. It's from the Dick Cavett show from, I think, 1970. Let's see, 1974. Here we go. So David Bowie talking about black noise. And again, there is, and he also mentions Burroughs, which is William S. Burroughs, and Carl James has written quite a lot about William S. Burroughs in his book Science Fiction and the Hidden Global Agenda. But Bowie describes in this clip how black noise could be used to destroy a city or harm a population or take out half the studio. I think he mentioned something similar to that in this conversation. It's quite a peculiar clip, but we know that David Bowie was into some very strange things. He's an interesting character. I've got a piece about him in my UFOs and Aliens book, and there's a thing called Alien Entity, a web page about David Bowie called Alien Entity, which brings together some interesting facts, which I quote in my book. It's now in the Internet Archive. So anyway, it's only a short clip. You can have a listen and see what you think. It does seem like he's talking about a technology which, is something like, what they might have used on 9/11 or some version of that. That's why it's interesting, really. So while we're getting on to the sort of weird alien stuff, I'll just mention this channel. This has been posting videos for quite a while now, and there's some really interesting videos on here, some archive material from the 1970s, and I see this. I've not seen this video, for example, here, the Wilhelm Reich one. I should listen to that. That's very short. Sorry, well, no, it's not. It's 52:17, isn't it? I thought it was shorter than that. I must have been looking at that one. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. So, many interesting videos on there. I watched that Tony Dodd one. I'd not seen that before. That's a clip from one of the events in Leeds from about, I don't know, about 2003 or 2 or somewhere around that time period. So, yeah, some very interesting material there. And then back to the alien stuff again, really, looking at this Praveen Mohan video. Did aliens with elongated skulls genetically modify humans? And he looks at the evidence, possible evidence for this in sculptures in these temples, I think, in Indonesia. He analyzes these sculptures which seem to show beings with elongated skulls and them holding what appear to be, genetically modified animals and stuff. And very interesting video. So I recommend that as well. It's really interesting, some of the stuff that he observes. His channel is great. He's come up with a lot of good stuff. He's pretty good at not... I think his videos are slightly clickbaity in the thumbnails, but when you get into them, they're pretty good, pretty solid in terms of evidence and stuff, and he gets some good archival material in there as well. So again, I've admired what he's been doing for many years now, and so you can have a look at that video. Similar topic then. I recently went through this book, Gods of the New Millennium, and it's very, very good sort of compilation of stuff, really. Very concise, a lot of detail, written in 1996 by Alan Alford. Now, I remember Lloyd Pye mentioning his name several times when I spoke to him, and maybe in one or two of his talks, because he covers quite a lot of the similar ground that Lloyd Pye does. Unfortunately, I think my criticism of this book is it relies too much on Sitchin's work in parts of it, and he goes on about the Anunnaki being in rockets and stuff, and the spaceport in the Sinai Desert. I don't really buy into all of that side of it, but there's a lot of other good stuff in here, and I recommend this book as a really good read. A lot of detail, very well written. Just sort of, if you read my critique of the Sitchin stuff, then you might understand why I'm a bit more reserved about parts of this book. But it's available on the Internet Archive in EPUB and PDF form and stuff, so you can download it for free. So finishing off then with two things. First one came up on Facebook, and this is a quote. I think it's an accurate quote from Red Wing Crow 1908, and talking about what intrigued me was this way they discussed being wild and being free. So I'll read out this here just for the heck of it. If you white man had never come here, this country would still be like it was. it would be all pure here. You call it wild, but it wasn't really wild, it was free. Animals aren't wild, they're just free, and that's the way we were. You called us wild, you called us savages, but we were just free. If we were savages, Columbus would never have gotten off the island alive. Our religion is all about thanking the Creator. That's what we do when we pray. We don't ask him for things, we thank him. We thank him for the world and every animal and plant in it. We thank him for everything that exists. We don't take it for granted that a tree is just there. We thank the Creator for that tree. If we don't thank him, maybe the Creator will take that tree away. We are made from Mother Earth and we go back to Mother Earth. We can't own Mother Earth. We're just visiting here. We're the Creator's guests. I really like that. Now, what was interesting was some of the comments that then came on my Facebook. And, these are all public, so I'm not, sort of revealing anything here. But Abraham Hafiz Rodriguez, who this name may be familiar to some astute viewers, but he says, did you think the Age of Aquarius ascending master Archon Kool-Aid, bro? You sure sound like you did. If your words are genuine, not sarcastic, etc. Well, he's critiquing this thing. And he was also posted this other comment. Actually, let me find that other one. So Abraham makes the point, I guess the descriptive term wild explains why different tribes were at war with each other, killing, raping and enslaving each other. Do not be deceived into thinking that Native Americans were peaceful or enlightened because of misleading social media quotes that people like to salivate over and exaggerate. The truth is, they were barbaric, violent and certainly not in a real relationship with the one true God. Now, I think you can guess the sort of background that Abraham is coming from. And he makes fair comment. They were at war, but I don't know the details of that. And I suggest that narrative about them being wild and savages and so forth is quite similar to the narrative that was promoted about Muslims hating Western freedoms, and attacking them and so forth. So, I think you can take this quote at face value, whether the Indians were savages or not, which I doubt. I don't think they were savages to the degree that is claimed by Abraham, and he has his own reasons for saying that. But you could also say that some of the Christians were savages because they went round the world, and what the conquistadors did in South America and stuff, that was pretty barbaric. So you can make these accusations about various groups of people. But the fact that they do have, their civilizations lasted, I think, for thousands of years, the Native Americans. Anyway, I'm not going to go into all of that. I just thought this was an interesting quote. The reaction was interesting. You can read it on my Facebook profile if you want. I'm not really getting involved in the debate. So finally then, the very last thing is I was raking through some old stuff. I've been having a bit of clear up at home here and sorting some things out and some old photographs and things. And I came across a card which I'd kept, I think from a book token or something. And it had this quote from Titus Livius, who was a Roman philosopher, I think. It's at the top of the page. And on this card, it said, and this was way before I got this, way before I got into sort of 9/11 research and all that kind of thing. It says, truth is often eclipsed but never extinguished. So, and then he has a similar couple of quotes. There is an old saying from which its truth has become proverbial, that friendships should be immortal, enemies mortal. That's quite an interesting one. And truth, they say, is but too often in difficulties, but is never finally suppressed. So I think that's true. That is a true truth as well. So you can read that quote, that page as well if you like. And thank you for listening to me again. Thanks for your support and everything. And I wish you well. And let's hope we can move forwards.